Crunchy bugs. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to the 11D Life podcast.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of 11D Life. I am Matt.
And I am Davey.
And we play in a band called 11tyseven, and this podcast is all about life through the lens of our band. We recently put out a brand new album called Rad Science, and the release was funded via Kickstarter, and we've had a request by a lot of the backers to do a sort of track commentary on the record.
Yeah, and to prove how kind and benevolent we are, we're doing it. We're going to fulfill your request.
To prove just how benevolent we are, we're going to talk even more about ourselves on here because it's so damn fun.
Yeah.
So the idea behind this episode is that for all of the typical 11D Life listeners, we're going to split this one up into 2 episodes. So kind of like a side A and side B, as if the commentary were a vinyl. So we're going to, so we're going to release.
Was that the plan? Or did you just come up with that?
I think I just came up with that.
Wow,
actually.
I like it.
Yeah. So this first episode is going to be us talking through the first 5 tracks on Rad Science, and then there will be a second part of this episode where we talk about the other 5 or the back 5. So I think it's also part of the plan to release all of these as a track-by-track commentary on Spotify. So we're going to be hooking that up here probably within the next few weeks. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's dive in. Yeah, so the first track on Rad Science is a song called New Rock Bottom. And I think the concept for that song, I think this song was actually, it's the first song on the album, but it's also, I think, the first demo.
Yeah, it was.
For whenever we started writing new 11D tunes, it had been years since we had sat down and wrote an 11tyseven song.
Yeah, so this would have been summer of 2016.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember there were a few other songs that I started when I knew that I wanted to start trying to write some new 11D tunes. I went through 2 or 3 demos that I started that I just didn't get to. And I think that they were all in drop D. And throughout the entire history of 11D, I had never written a song in drop D. Because I was too afraid that it would go out of tune live. Because was
that the real reason?
That string's just dangling there. What's going to happen to it?
For those of you that don't know what drop D is a tuning that a lot of heavier bands use.
Yeah, and
we've never been really pegged as a heavy band.
Not really. And if you're out there just learning guitar, anybody who's ever tried to learn guitar, you can impress yourself pretty quickly. Playing in drop D.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried a few things out and just kind of tried to familiarize myself with that tuning, just riffing around.
Yeah. And that's what drop D really allows you to play, to explore riffs more easily. So that's interesting about the song is it's really built off of that riff.
I've always called it being able to get to home base quicker.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can always kind of just...
If you play in drop D and you write your song in the key of D, basically, if you get lost, just take your hand off the neck and strum.
Just hand off the neck and strum because the guitar is tuned to a chord. So you can just play it without anything on there and it'll just make a chord. So... I finally landed on the riff that you hear in the intro of that song.
This is where in post we'll replace Matt's voice right there with the actual.
There should be the riff playing.
Boom.
Okay,
and there it was.
We did it. And I just I was imagining what it would be like if 11D had been on a break for years and we had come back. What if I were a fan of 11tyseven, what would be something really exciting that would kind of meld this pop punk sensibility with all the synthesizer stuff that we kind of come to be known for.
I think that the original demo though didn't really have any or much synthesizer at all. It was just the guitar riff.
No, I don't think it did. I think it was just the guitar.
And then we sort of throughout the process of writing the rest of the record, I think it was over and over. We were like, we need more synthesizer in the rock songs. So it's just match the guitar line.
Yeah. So I remember taking a Moog Sub-Fatty and copying that line, programming that riff on the synthesizer and then running it through, I think it was a ZVEX Fuzz Factory or a Big Muff pedal or something, just to kind of make the synthesizer sound as much like a guitar as I could. But there's also something like really cool about just dirtying up synthesizers and making them sound like guitars. I think I got that idea from, there's an album that Daft Punk put out years ago called Discovery. Ooh. And that whole record, they do a lot of that, where they make synthesizers sound like guitars and guitars sound like synthesizers. And
so was there a conscious reason to do that all, I guess, out of the box, to do that all with actual like analog synthesizers and pedals, as opposed to, I
feel like there's just a huge difference between, like, most music is done on software synthesizers, and they're really, really tough sounding software synthesizers. Like dubstep is tough sounding software synthesizers, but there's something about like pushing air over a microphone. There's something about like connecting circuits together and overloading circuits, and
I think often you hear the argument for that being it's a warmer sound.
I think it's warmer. But I think it feels more real. I think it exists in the real world, to some extent, more so than just like zeros and ones than synthesizers do. So like the more in the real, to me, like running synthesizers through guitar pedals is kind of like another step into reality.
It's also a hell of a lot of fun. It's so much more fun to do that than to sit in a program and mess with virtual knobs.
Yeah, I hate twiddling with virtual knobs.
So hard.
And it's not gratifying at all. Like if you ever get a chance to like play with a synthesizer, just sit down and put your hands on it and flip it on. Like it something about those machines, like an actual instrument, especially like analog synths, like you can kind of feel them breathing. You kind of feel them. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's probably the difference between riding a horse and riding a mechanical horse at a bar. Right? It's like,
because you can only do one drunk.
Yeah. Because there's always the chance that real horse is going to take off running into the woods and kill you.
But the mechanical horse,
it's just going to toss you off.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to die.
It's just both are going to embarrass you in front of your friends.
So sense of danger is why you wrote New Rock Bottom.
New Rock Bottom is like, I think that the approach to that song was very much inspired by almost this Jack Skellington approach to songs, where like for anybody who's like a Nightmare Before Christmas fan, there's a very specific way that Jack Skellington sings about things, in that he can talk himself in and out of things simultaneously in one song. And I think the approach to writing this song was like, hey, I'm really cynical. I'm super jaded. Like, life kind of sucks right now. I've waded through a ton of disappointment. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, but I know I have to do something. Like I know that I have to find a way to acclimate to disappointment.
So is that what you're talking yourself into? What are you talking yourself into?
I'm talking myself into keeping moving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because if you're like left to your own devices, you won't keep moving.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people feel that way. I think it's really easy to kind of stay in the cynicism and let it control you, or you have the option to sort of decide to transcend that mode of thinking,
right?
Which is like, everything's terrible, everything's bad. You know, I'm going through so many hard times right now, or so many things in life that I don't know how to figure out, or I don't know how to approach. And it's like, maybe the important thing is not so much that you're approaching those things correctly. It's just that you keep moving. Sometimes you don't know the right thing to do. Sometimes you don't know how to deal with like really messed up situations in your life. But the important thing is just like, you can always put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. So one of the, I wouldn't say common, but one of the complaints we've gotten about particularly this song.
We can do a whole nother episode on that.
Yeah. Well, essentially though, it is the, wow, this is sort of depressing. This is not the sugary sweet lyrics we're used to out of you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
we'll do an episode on that. People that are just like, yeah, Matt, these songs are so depressing. Like, I'm so disappointed in you for writing.
But it doesn't sound
songs
at all
that
like
are honest about your life.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that's what you were trying to do, though.
I mean, I feel like the whole song kind of gets summed up in the one lyric where it's like, I've got a glass half empty, but that won't stop me from drinking.
Yeah,
which is like one of the lines in the bridge. And I feel like that's the crux of the song.
Yeah. And I think also, like, it's a story. Like, telling songs is about telling stories. Like, no one likes Jim at the office party who gets a raise every 5...
Except for Pam.
Yeah, except for Pam. This dude gets a raise all the time and everything goes well and he knows how to surf and he's never been fired and he's never like lost a loved one and he's never been dumped and blah, blah, blah. Nobody likes that guy. He doesn't have a good story. Like nobody likes.
Right. Like people who've never been through anything in life are boring.
Yeah.
And to no fault of their own. And I'm not saying like, oh gosh, your life is not worth as much if you haven't had experience, but like part of living life is engaging in those experiences, putting yourself in situations to have them.
Sure. And maybe, at some point becoming some level of vulnerable to where other people are able to understand that other people are also going through some of
the more things that you go through, the more you relate to people who have gone through things, the more you can like sympathize with others. So
we were really trying to get you to sympathize.
We're trying to get humanity to sympathize with one another. I remember there was something that happened in this song when we sent it to mix. I can't remember when I got the first mix back, there were a lot of tracks that were like off time.
I don't think I heard
like
that.
the vocals were entirely off time when I got them back.
From mixing?
From the mix guy, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
mix.
We actually might do a podcast with the mix guy because he probably was just as confused as I was. When I got it back, he was like, this guy sings like about a measure behind everything. Everything's supposed to be like laying out and he's just going full speed ahead.
Is that because you sent him the stems wrong, or
it was something to do with like latency in his Pro Tools rig?
Weird.
That it happened because he was running it through a bunch of hardware and stuff. So,
and he's just a nice guy who wasn't like, dude, this song is terrible.
Right. Yeah. And I think we've since then our friendship has grown to the point where he could be like, hey, you want to let me know if something's up with this?
But how embarrassing would it be if nothing was up with it? And you're like, nope, that's how the song goes.
Yeah.
We're terrible.
Yeah. In the chorus, I think, in the main riff of the song, all of those guitars are doubled with synthesizers. I've had some people on the internet ask me that, like, hey, how do you get this guitar sound? It's not a guitar, it's a synthesizer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
If you ever want to know how 11tyseven got a sound, it's a synthesizer.
Our friend Mike tracked the drums for this song, and I remember being in the studio with him and just kind of saying, hey, I really want you to do, like in the chorus, I know what I want to have happen, but in these other parts of the song, I really want you to try some stuff out.
And he is just a ripper. And
one of the things that he tried out is the second verse of this song, which is just like, I was watching him play this and I was like, how do you
do that?
I don't think humans are supposed to move that fast.
And the way we do demos here is essentially
they all start out with fake drums.
Which are, it's, for those of you who aren't aware of this, a lot of the drums you hear in music aren't real drums. Or
they're resampled. They might be like, there's a little bit of a real kit in there, but somebody's throwing in drum samples that were recorded in really, really expensive studios on very expensive gear.
And you can kind of place them and block them around, and it's sort of fun to do that for people who aren't drummers like Matt or I, but so we aren't drummers, so we write these really cool drum parts in
like robots
on our laptops that we're like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. But it never crosses our mind whether it's actually possible to do.
Right.
So I think the first demo of this song, the second verse, there were like insane drums.
Yeah.
And didn't Mike say something like,
oh yeah, Mike was like, so where's the octopus that you're hiring to come in here and play this part? And I was like, oh, okay. Impossible. All right, maybe we'll tone it back a little bit.
And then he actually wrote a drum part for it on the fly, and it rips.
The drum part that ended up in there in the second verse is actually pretty damn close to the first one, to what I had programmed.
All right.
But
all right, Pat.
Apparently my fingers can play better drums than Mike can.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
So the track listing, the position that this is in the track listing, let's talk about that. I think for me, it feels like we always wanted it to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we ever really deviated from that.
We never thought about opening up the album with anything else.
It's really interesting. It was the first demo written.
Yeah.
And it's the first song on I'm trying to think through the rest of it.
When we started writing music that we wanted to be new 11tyseven, this was the first song that we came up with.
Sure. It's the opening paragraph. It has the thesis
Yeah.
of the essay.
It kind of is. Like it sets the tone for the rest of the record. Like it's going to be big, sad, fun, synth heavy, like a lot of pop punk sensibility to it, but also like maybe some more serious things to talk about. Yeah. If you could change anything about the song, what would you change about it, Davey? Like, I think I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
I can always go for like a few more like quarter delays on vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I've had no complaints with this one from the beginning. My only thought on this one was in order to make it feel more like 11tyseven and jive with the rest of everything you were doing was to throw more synthesizer on it, but we did that in droves. So
yeah. So if we could rate it a 1 out of 10, what would we rate it?
Let's put it in context. First song released in over 4 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'd give it a solid 8.5.
I was going to say 7.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure I'll get like a year from now, I'll listen to that song and I'll be like, oh, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
Or turn that knob to the left sometimes.
Yeah, I think from a non-technical perspective, and this is my sort of unique position here is, Matt's the primary songwriter here. So I'm just here to help Matt make it songs,
Yeah, but you're definitely at a really, really great sounding board, but you're not a sound deadening board.
Right.
Like you always have ideas or suggestions or different things that are like, oh, well, I don't know if that works, but maybe if you were to try that, which is like, that's always so much more helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I hate everything you just did.
Yeah. But and I say that to say that from a song perspective, like you sing the song, right? You're not singing the guitar part. From a song perspective, lyrics and melody as a 26, 7-year-old at that point, pretty spot on for me. I was on the same page as that that voice was. So yeah, I loved it.
Awesome. Yeah. So that was New Rock Bottom. So the next track up is a song called 1990 Awesome. I'm pretty sure I remember this song or the vibe of this song kind of being inspired by, gosh, what is that? I think it's Can't Stop Partying by Weezer.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I remember hearing the production on that song and I was like, that's pretty fun.
Is that the one that goes, Beverly Hills?
Yes. How did you know?
I know. Such a fan.
Yeah. I actually remember of all the songs on the record, this is the one I got the most pushback from. Like I remember sending you and Craigo the demo for this one, and then you guys being like, we're not so sure that's
no,
that's a good idea for a song.
I had reservations about this one up until
I think because you thought a lot of the initial lyrics were lame. And they probably were.
Yeah, I think that...
Not to say these are like earth-shattering.
The rest of the record to me felt like this narrator was speaking, and then we got to this song, and it felt out of character with that narrator. It felt like this song would make the album less of an album and more of a compilation of songs.
Right.
That was my main objection to the song, because it's really tongue-in-cheek. It's very 11tyseven. There's no doubt about it. Like, it's very much something that 11tyseven would put out. I didn't feel like it was the same person speaking.
I think it's in keeping with the tone of 11tyseven as a band from beginning to now. I don't think I think if there's any song on the record that's a little tone deaf to the rest of the record, it's probably this one.
Yeah, I think that I say that lyrically.
Right, right.
I think the melody is incredible. I think the instrumentation, all of it's great.
I think sonically, like, I'm super happy with it. But also at the same time, like, with Jelly Rocks and with like other earlier 11ty material, like a lot of times I'm writing songs as therapy for feeling depressed.
Right.
And I think that there are a lot of like darker themes in Rad Science, and there are some more like vulnerable and sad moments that get explored in a lot of those songs. And I'm pretty sure like the day that I came into the studio to start this demo, I was like, I just want to write a big, happy, fun, nostalgic pop song.
You succeeded. It's difficult because I'm so close to the band, to the brand, to the songs, to everything. Like my entire adult life has had 11ty7 and like your songwriting voice in it as a part of it in some way. So I'm so familiar with this sort of song from you.
Yeah.
And the rest of the record felt like such a step forward.
Like you were being surprised by other stuff in the record.
Yeah, and this was like, he still got that in it.
Okay, cool. He wrote Evil Genius, and then the next day he wrote 1990 Awesome.
But it's also really, really, really difficult to look at an album in like full context with good perspective.
When you're making it. Yeah.
Like, I think this song does fit on the record, and it makes sense now.
Yeah.
When we were making it, I was
You're like, that might get axed.
I was so that might get axed that I said, Matt, just let me just try a rewrite on the lyrics. And yeah. So I took it. I got the track with no lyrics on it, and I thought about it, and I sat down and I listened to it in my car over and over, and I hummed some stuff, and I couldn't get your damn words out of my head. Do you ever get that problem where you're like, oh, this needs a rewrite?
Yeah, if you've heard anything about it beforehand.
So that's when I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that means the melody's good because I can't not sing the melody. So now it's just like a lyric thing. And I'm like, there was like 2 parts where I was like, okay, maybe that could be a little bit better. But end of the day, I couldn't rewrite any of the lyrics either because I couldn't get the other ones out of my head. It was a really strange thing. I'm a songwriter. I write songs, and I couldn't write this song. It was the weirdest thing.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that the origin for this song might have come from, like, I think I might have walked into the studio one day and thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny to like write some kind of a love song from the perspective of like a homeschooler? And I think that might be where the first line, "denim all over your body," came from. Like imagining this homeschooler like showing up to like a community barn dance or something, and he's like,
"Oh my god,
look at all that denim!"
Wow. No, wait, I did have a whoa.
You actually wrote one of the lines in the song. I did write
one of the lines on this song.
Yeah, you wrote my own worst enema.
My own worst enema.
Which was like, when we were talking about 90s references, there were a ton that got thrown in here that maybe there's so many crammed in there that you're like, I don't even know if that's a reference or not. But it was...
There was a lot of discussion around
it's a reference to Lit's, or a band called Lit. They wrote a song called My Own Worst Enemy, which is a huge song in the 90s. Yeah,
and that riff is happening behind the lyrics of this part of the song.
Right.
And Enema of the State
was an album by Blink-182
released in
that was
99.
huge at the time. And so we were like, how do we mash those two together?
And we're talking about Hanson tickets, which we are off board with Hanson at this point in our life. So we're like, okay, let's blow this completely out of the water and make this part of the song so in-depth and sopping wet with references. There will be a music reference. There will be a reference to a part of the song a few seconds ago by referencing 2 other completely different things.
It's basically like Inception.
It's Refception.
It's Refception. And is made up as a lot of the lyrics are. Like, I actually do remember going with a girl I was dating at the time to a Hanson show.
No,
I have stood in line for Hanson tickets. That actually was a thing.
Even more embarrassing.
Isn't there like a Tupac reference in there? I have no shame anymore. Like I wrote this song. If you read the lyrics to this song, why would I still have shame?
I know there was a lot of discussion about the validity of the Space Jam references.
Oh yeah.
Craigo took offense to part.
What are the lyrics to that?
I don't even know. But I know that this is that story that he said that's not
Space Jam, Michael Jordan is our Patronus, so aliens don't own us.
Yeah, so aliens don't own us.
Yeah.
It wasn't that the aliens were going to own us. It was that the aliens were going to own the tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
you'd have to be watching Space Jam and identifying so closely with the animated characters and with...
Yeah. So anyway,
Michael Jordan.
There were a lot of problems with that and some of the Harry Potter references. And Matt actually I got a few texts like back to back one day
Because Craig was like, I don't
was
think
like-
that reference makes sense.
Which
And I
was like,
no.
it was basically Matt went to Wikipedia and like fact checked himself and fact checked all his references, and he was like sending source material. Like
I was like, I think this holds up in court.
he's like, I think this is fine. This is
Yeah.
fine. Here's full story. Here's what this person would say in this situation. Here's where we're at, and yeah, we're good.
And I was like, even if everything that I've just said does not check out on IMDb,
Yeah.
who would not want Michael Jordan as their Patronus
Yeah. So at that point, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have the energy to.
to fight it anymore? I can't fight this
Yeah.
reference anymore.
So we just went with the song, and I like it. I think it fits well.
So the changes from the demo to the final version are probably just like a bunch of lyric tweaks. And then I remember like, man, I think this song needs something. Like we need to do something kind of fun in here. And then I had started on some Jelly Rocks demo I was working on ancillarily to sample like some old songs from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on Sega Genesis. And there's like a few samples that I had pulled off the internet from that song that were going to be in like a Jelly Rocks tune. And then I was like, wait a minute. I wonder if like anybody has like an old Bop It laying around. Because I remember watching those commercials in the 90s for Bop It, like the toy. And so it took me forever. I don't know why I didn't just type in like Bop It HD.
yeah.
But I actually pulled that sample off of YouTube through my laptop into the recording rig. It just played that whole thing and then just went in and like time stretched. But yeah, that sample ended up getting like spliced a million different ways before we
So
landed on it.
for the listeners at home and sort of for me, explain why we don't have to pay Hasbro for that sample.
I actually don't know. I'm completely flying blind here.
Oh no!
I did change the sample a bit. Like the timing's been changed on it. Like I'm pretty sure it was like it was down sampled. I think like I've made a few changes to it. I don't know. Hasbro could actually come out probably and come after me for using that. But it's kind of all in good fun. It's not like we're getting rich off of this song yet.
And they would only do that if
Yeah.
we did get rich off of the song. Which
Which is probably not going to happen.
At which point we could afford an entertainment lawyer to handle this.
Yeah.
Worth it.
We're also like bringing product awareness to to a toy
Who's
that
talking
makes
about
them money.
Bop-Its?
I mean, last I checked, Bop It's not running for office.
Yeah, if they say something, we're just going to say, this was free advertising for you. You owe us. Ad space.
Anyway, so if anybody that works for Hasbro is out there, please don't come after us. We really do love your toy. And it was a huge part of our 90s childhood. And just let us pay it homage in this song. Don't bother us about the sample.
Yeah, your check will be in the
Also,
mail.
send me a Bop It if you want to.
We would love to be sponsored by Bop It.
What would be the point in being sponsored
not
by
a lot
Bop
of
It? There's so many
utility.
pros to it.
Yeah.
But I just can't name one right now. Other than just having a random Bop It laying around the house, like at all times. So yeah, that's the first toy breakdown in the history of our band, where we sampled a toy as a breakdown. Yeah, lyrically, the song is pretty much just like reminiscing about a bunch of 90s stuff and acknowledging the fact that Davey and I would much rather be sitting at home doing some sort of studio or family activity than like out doing cool 20-something shit.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So anyway,
What a life.
things that got changed during the mix process, I think it ended up sounding even better after it came back from mix. Sonically, track listing, we wanted the first 3 songs on the record to just be like, these are all of the funnest parts of 11tyseven historically.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think it accomplished it. If
Yeah,
I could change
it's-
anything about the song, what would I do? I don't know.
You know, I think we could still work on some of those.
I think we can
references.
probably come up with some better
We
lyrics.
can tighten up some of those references. Because we're sort of mixing a Space Jam and a Harry Potter.
No,
together.
That's cool. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
It's totally okay for you to think it's lame. I
think it's lame.
yeah.
That's
So
okay.
rated a 1 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna give it a fair 8 because I really, really do like it a lot. No matter what anybody else thinks about it.
Objective third party.
Yeah.
I think it's novelty.
Yeah.
First listen, I'd probably say 8.
Okay.
However, 10th listen, and that's where you really need to judge things.
Right.
How do they hold up over the course of your week?
Right.
It's dropping. 6.
Stock is dropping on 1990 Awesome.
Dropping. It's like candy. It's like you eat it once. That was fun. But you've eaten nothing but that for 6 days.
Yeah.
And diabetes.
Yep. That's true. So this was a whole bunch of guitar riffs layered with synthesizers, kind of in the same way that New Rock Bottom was, as far as like, I think all the pads in the verses were done with a soft synth called Massive, as far as like all the other little production trinkets with the track. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the long and short of it.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what else to say about it. I mean, other than like diving into the Pro Tools session, which is like not fun for anybody on the podcast.
But honestly, if anybody out there thinks that would be fun, hit us up on the socials. If enough of you ask, we'll do it. Honestly, if 3 of you ask, we'll do it. It doesn't take a lot to get us to do stuff. So.
It is kind of fun to go through and mute different parts of the track and hear how it changes the song.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that kind of stuff from a band.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that's 1990 Awesome. So the third song on Rad Science is called New York Minute. It is far and away the fastest pop punk sort of song on the record. And I think it's really reminiscent of a lot of the earlier 11tyseven stuff.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Where it's probably too fast.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a little bit. It's frenetic. It's like kind of all over the place. But this is one of those songs that kind of makes me feel like a teenager again. It makes me feel like I'm hanging out at band practice in somebody's bedroom with a microphone dangling from the ceiling fan, and just like singing about girls.
Yeah, so this one is like there's no hidden metaphor here. This song is about
there's not. It's the abridged history of how I met my wife.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. So
Yeah.
I'm learning stuff now.
Yeah,
Here, sitting in front of you, before you today,
because we're such good friends and we talk about this stuff all the time.
because I'm in this band.
Yeah, that happens in bands.
Yeah, but so many people write songs about girls. It's just like the default.
Yeah,
And
I'm not special for doing
You
that.
just never know if it's real or
I'm
not.
not, yeah.
We've all made up stuff.
Songs
like, I
about
don't have
girls
a
are
song
the
to write,
easiest ones
so-
to write
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody's had experiences with like relationships, or you have a friend that's like annoyed the hell out of you with their
Yeah,
relationship.
or you
So
can just imagine that a situation like this would make you feel this way.
everybody's got material for that.
Yeah. So pretty much low-hanging fruit is what we're saying.
I think even when you start out writing songs, like start trying to write songs, most of the time that's what people are writing about.
Sure.
Most of the time that's what like teenage dudes are writing about.
That's really all you're thinking about.
Yeah. It's all Taylor Swift ever wrote about.
Yeah, but those were good songs. So it's a little bit of
But
difference.
those were good songs. Originally, I think that I could probably say this. I don't think that there's any lyric in that song that didn't actually happen.
Really?
Every line of that song actually did happen. It is like a factual account of how I met my wife.
Now I'm trying to go through all of them to call you out.
Like I had some kid on the internet. I can't remember if he like wrote, if I came across something that he was saying about that song, or if he actually wrote me an email about it. He said something about, hey, I think the song is really cool, but Matt definitely admitted to like being inappropriate with a girl before they were married.
Did you?
Well, I was like,
What part of the song?
that's what I was saying. Like I wasn't sure what he was talking about, and then I realized in the song one of the lines is we were rocking the Strokes.
Oh.
And I think he probably thought I was like stroking a body part. But I'm actually
What?
talking about the band The Strokes.
Oh my gosh.
Because that was one of the first conversations that I ever had with Jessica.
Yeah, but that would be the weirdest way to admit to fornication. I'm rocking the Strokes.
I'm rocking the Strokes,
Oh
guys,
my
if you know what I'm
gosh.
talking about. It's so stupid.
Friend who thought that was what that meant. Guy, come on.
You've clearly got something on your mind.
Rocking the Strokes. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So, yeah, I really, really loved the Strokes when I was, 17, 18.
Yeah, I did too. I still
I
do.
thought they were super sweet.
Oh, I ran across a comment on this song. So you listen to all of my shitty songs.
Yeah.
So we did not do the on that shitty, but we did the on the shitty and holding out, or the shit and holding out.
Yeah.
So someone said, why would you do it here and not here? That's a good question. Do we have an answer for that?
Oh, you mean what? So why would we kind of edit out the word shit and holding out, but then not edit it out shitty here?
Yeah.
I think like I literally was just like, I'm going to write this song. Like what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of 11 songs actually start out with just kind of freeform thought about what the lyrics need to be. And then over time they get whittled down to something or changed entirely. And most 11 demos actually do end up with a large amount of profanity in them because that's the easiest thing to kind of get a melody idea down with.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go back and realize, well, hey, this is what I want the song to be about, or I think I could say this in a better way. But honestly, like, gosh, I'm a 30-year-old dude. Like, I just don't care.
Sure, but we cared in holding out.
In holding out, I think it was funnier. I think it sounded funnier to be, and the vocals are like a little more up front. It feels like a little more abrasive. Like, it actually sounded, I think it felt a little more crass in holding out than it does here.
Yeah, it's more of a
because it's a noun in that song, and then this it's a modifier. It's an adjective.
I've actually been sitting here. I've been sitting here trying to figure out what it is so I can make a joke around that.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't know parts of speech that well.
Is that a gerund? What is that? Is that a thing?
Yeah. So, you know, what I would be really disappointed in if I were a fan and I heard a band edit out one in like the song they thought would be the single and not in another song, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty... You know,
which holding out did turn
shitty.
into a single. And actually, I've had some radio people reach out to me and be like, "Hey, can you send us a version like without shit in it?" And I was like, "It's already edited. It already doesn't say that word.
Yeah.
Like it sounds more like it says the word shoe." That was the whole point. So there didn't need to be like a radio safe version. But like, I guess people are like, if I think that he might say that word.
Yeah, if he makes me think about that
word.
word.
He makes me think, oh, I can't be held responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, the song's great. New York Minute. It was the one from the beginning. This was one of the first few songs that you sent over. Initially, there was that sort of lead riff, which is a synthesizer now. It originally was just
it sounded,
a clean guitar. It sounded like a Blink-182 song.
Yeah, so that first intro riff, that that was all a really clean electric guitar playing over that, and it actually made it kind of dated the song a little bit. It made it sound super like early 2000s.
Yeah,
pop punk.
Yeah, definitely. There was a whole group of bands that did that thing.
Yeah,
you know, the lead guitarist would play like some like picking notes. In sort of a clean tone over. The rhythm guitar is playing,
and that's like almost every Blink-182 song.
Yeah. So, similar to New Rock Bottom, the way we resolved that was just
well, we got towards
let's cover it completely. With
I think we got a few weeks away from having to send it off to mix, and we were like, "What?" It actually was a last minute change. Like,
I think it's as the thing starts to solidify itself. You start to be able to see it with perspective and in context. And
it sounded just a little bit too much, a little too pop punk. And so we kind of Motion City soundtracked it up a little bit. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. And
I think that's the reference for that moment.
Yeah. I think it sits a lot better in the full record.
Yeah.
Than it did before. Sounds sonically on the same page as everything else.
Yeah. So that's New York Minute. Also,
just another shitty song,
which is also I should have started out this commentary by saying that it was inspired by the Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie of the same name, but
you didn't.
I didn't,
and now we can't go back.
Anyway, let's let bygones be bygones, and so on and so on. So the fourth song on Rad Science is a track called Holding Out. This is probably one of the more super over-the-top pop songs on the record. Yeah. Like, I don't think we even tried to make this one tough at all.
No.
I remember how it started out though. It started out with that. There's like a really vocally sounding kind of synthesizer that kicks in about halfway through the verse. It's like, bow, just a little bit sick, living for the bow, bow, bow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that one sound.
I was really close to it, wasn't I?
You were. That was bow.
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
That sound is actually made up of 8 different tracks at one time of me playing that same note on a synthesizer, but running it through some different effects.
Wow.
Or running it through, I don't even remember. I know that it was run through like a bunch of distortion pedals, but to get it to sound that like wide and detuned, I think I tracked it like a few different times, like detuning it just a little bit
So which
from one
synth?
another. I think it's the Sub Fatty that does that.
Cool.
Yeah, the Moog Sub Fatty is all over this record. Like, it just seemed to be the one that I could grab. It had a bunch of knobs, and it was always hooked up.
Is that how much thought you put into these tracks? Which one can I grab right now that has a bunch of knobs?
Well, it also, the Sub Fatty sounds a little tougher than a lot of the other synthesizers because it has this little knob on it called the multi-drive. And so it already kind of sounds tough out of the gate.
Right.
So then when you start like running it through pedals and stuff, it just kind of starts to get nasty sounding. Yeah. So
I love doing that so much. I'm never going to stop.
I think you found a new calling in life.
I can't stop from cyberspacing out again, which is the second line of the song. Get into it.
Yeah, so this one is kind of more of a, I think it's sort of like a confession / lament. This is, well, I think one of the big themes of the record as a whole is sort of this millennial disillusionment. And this song totally sums that up, I think. It's like, I don't know, it's like, I'm a little bit sick of living for the weekend, treading water in the deep end. I think it's like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people my age right now that have families to support. They have kids, and I have a family. Like I'm married, and I do have a lot of different things that provide pressure.
You have dogs.
In life.
You have 2 dogs.
Yeah, but like, I think there are times where you sort of have these moments of existential thinking where you're like, what is it? Gosh, just to pay bills?
Yeah.
Like, I have to make money to pay bills, to do this, that, and the other thing. Like, what? Oh my God. It just feels like this never ending cycle, and it starts to feel overwhelming after a while.
Sure.
Because it really is kind of one of those moments where you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here?
Do you know the truth?
Yeah.
I didn't know most of the words to this song in the chorus for a long time. Until Craig was actually like singing it under his breath one day, and I heard him sing some of the words like under pressure, like Bowie.
Yeah.
I didn't know you said Bowie. I thought you said boy, like some exclamation.
Under pressure, like boy.
Like boy. And I was like, man, I don't like that, but
That's not cool at all.
And then you said this, I'm under pressure like Bowie with no way out because I'm chained to this millennial.
Chained to this millennial treadmill.
Yeah. So this, what I'm looking at right now,
It says changing. I think we're looking at the same website, A2ZLyrics.com.
I love that neither one of us have the lyrics to this song. We had to Google it. Because I'm chained to this millennial treadmill. And I thought you said this millennial breast milk. Which also I was like, I don't know about that.
I'm chained to this millennial breast milk.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think I like that either. And then you said,
That's so weird.
yeah, and I thought you were weird, man.
You're like the kid who mistakes the Strokes for something else.
Yeah. So, but then you said, and if the terrorists don't get me, the stress will.
If the terrorists don't get me the breast milk.
No, yeah. But that was the part where I was like, oh, I need to bring something up now. That was the one that did it for me.
You guys tried to get me to stop saying something about terrorists.
Yeah, because I'm just like, it felt weird because there was when we
because
first
there was
got
a
demos for this,
ton of terrorism happening in the
There was a lot
world.
of people dying and a lot of terrorism and a lot of people like suicide bombings, and
That's where the lyrics came from.
I know, it was just on the news every day, and it just sort of, to me, it felt a little insensitive to the climate. It just felt like,
oh, that's okay.
yeah, it
Yeah, I
just
can
felt like,
understand
man, this is a bigger deal than our pop song, and it's like, this is a bad thing. People are
Everything's a
dying.
bigger deal than our pop songs.
I know, but this one, it felt too like we were making light of terrorism.
You feel
which-
like that, like they might have sounded a little tone deaf.
Yeah, a little tone
To
deaf,
just like to
crass.
use it as like a throwaway lyric in a song.
It is in the chorus, though. You didn't throw it away in the verse.
I didn't.
So there's some respect for terrorism at that point.
I gave the terrorists my chorus. They won again. No. Ah!
Yeah, but that was one of the moments where I'm like, hey, we should change this. And I think I sent that to you after I was like, there was some big terror attack, and I sent an email to you.
You and Craigo both kind of got onto me about that. You're like, oh man, don't say the word terrorist.
Well,
and I was like, if we can't say the word terrorist, then the terrorists win.
Yeah, but it just felt, it wasn't like I was afraid of saying it. It just felt wrong to me. Like I didn't want at that point, and I'm fine with it now. I don't care. But at that point I was like, if I'm being asked and my name's going to be on it, I'd rather not say terrorists here.
Yeah.
There's got to be another way to say this.
Yeah.
But it's there. People seem
I thought about that and then just disregarded it. I was just like, that's the line I want to say because it's on my mind. Like
you
it's actually
disregarded my feelings.
No, because it felt true to me.
Okay.
I was like that actually, like in 2017, I was thinking about terrorism a lot. And I didn't realize kind of how stressed out I was by thinking about it or like being surrounded by it all the time. Thanks a lot, NPR.
Yeah. Thanks for telling us the truth.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us know what's going on in the world. Yeah, so this is just kind of like, I don't know, just an effort to relate to everybody else that I knew was feeling very similarly to the way that I was.
Yeah,
it's
so
just kind of like, what's it all for?
Sort of the hook of it is because I'm not holding on, I'm just holding out for something else.
Yeah, like I'm clearly doing a terrible job of holding on to whatever it is I'm supposed to be holding on to. I think I'm just, for me, I feel like that line, I'm just holding out, is kind of like I'm always sort of saving a little bit. I've always keeping some cards up my sleeve, maybe just out of anxiety.
Okay.
Like sometimes you get like really afraid to pour all of yourself into something.
It's vulnerable.
Yeah, because there's an amount of vulnerability that comes with that. Or if you pour all of yourself into something and suddenly it doesn't work out or it fails, then you're like, well, then that makes me a failure.
Yeah.
But if I'm never giving all of myself to something,
you have the benefit of the doubt.
Then I can always say to myself, well, I didn't try as hard as I could have. And if I had have tried as hard as I could have, I probably would have succeeded.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the story you tell yourself.
So not that I feel like that all the time, but I think
all of us feel like that at times.
Yeah. Maybe even just in small, like micro decisions that you make about things. Like I'm not going to give it everything I've got.
Because I'm not, I'm holding out for when the moment when I do give it everything.
And I don't think that's like healthy behavior. It's not something I like.
Sure. And that, guys, this is the thing about songwriting is don't take it like what is being said in a song. Don't imagine that is exactly what that person is telling you to do. This is the biggest complaint that we get.
No one should keep on trucking.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest complaint that a lot of bands get this, a lot of artists get this. It's like, why would you write such a sad song? And like, well, they're metaphors, guys.
I'm not telling you to be sad.
It's a metaphor. It's saying that, hey, we're all sort of sad.
Yeah.
And here's sort of the way I feel about it.
And that's okay.
Yeah. We're not saying that this is exactly how you should feel or, we're all cynics and that's the way we should be.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah, absolutely.
On. Think for yourself, folks.
From a production standpoint, there's not a single real drum on this song. It's all programmed.
Right.
It's loops that were programmed or drum samples.
There's a part, I remember a part of this that I wanted to be different.
Like the bridge.
Section. That was it. Yeah. Oh, I also, so the bridge section, your falsetto and your...
Oh, you thought the whole song was too high.
I did.
You wanted to drop the song.
I really thought we should drop it.
And I was like, I've already tracked these synthesizers. I'm not retracking them again.
These are analog. We can't just move them around.
I can't just MIDI drop them.
If there were digital, if these weren't real synthesizers, we could have just dropped them.
If it was digital, I promise you that I would have taken your advice.
I will say this, that usually after the fact, like after the decision is made, I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm on board now. But I did want this dropped a lot. I even suggested like 2 whole steps. It's like, let's bring it down some. And there was one review we got back from this that was like, man, this vocal is a high and it is abrasive. And I was like, see?
This vocal is high and it makes me uncomfortable that it's coming from a grown-ass man.
He sort of understands what I was saying there.
Yeah, so that's Holding Out. And hope you guys like it.
Yeah.
Microchip is, I think, maybe one of the more serious songs on the record. Actually, it might be the most serious.
Yeah,
track
it's my
on the
favorite.
record. I think it might be my
One
favorite
of two.
too.
It's like one of my two favorites.
Yeah. And we have a lyric video for this one that probably hasn't come out yet, but maybe by the time this podcast comes out, it will have released. We're not sure what's going to happen with that yet. I think when I was writing this song, I think I was just trying to say something that mattered. Like there are times where you sit down to write songs and you're like, it's just a fun song. It's just like a 1990 awesome song, or I'm just going to write songs about girls or just like fun, relatable stuff. And to me, this one was like, I sat up in the studio for 3 or 4 days, I think, like going over these lyrics in my mind and trying to write them in such a way that they resonated with me, that they made sense to me, or that I was happy with them. I was happy with the words that were in the song, but I wasn't entirely concerned with them making a whole lot of sense to a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
I didn't try to make this like a lowest common denominator sort of pop song.
And I think this was written, all of these songs were written in a really weird time in the world and
very weird
in America.
And in our lives specifically.
Yeah, where we're just in technology and everything, like we're so exposed to so much now.
Yeah.
Just on a daily basis that it's a lot to deal with. And, arguably there are more, well, at least I can say this. We interact with more like mass killings, and we're able to like ingest this information about more of these things, especially in America, than we've ever.
Because we're like so connected. So the phrase like bearing the weight of the world on your shoulders has probably never been more true.
Yeah.
Than it becomes every day. It grows more true every day.
So it's really,
it's hard to escape it.
Yeah, so that's sort of where this one landed for me. It's like, this is sort of commentary on this whole world that we're in right now. And then
I just remember that one metaphor kind of summing up what I was seeing in the world and how I was feeling about the life that I was living, which kind of goes back. It's almost like Microchip is a really depressing version of Holding Out, because it really still is kind of about this millennial disillusionment that our generation experiences. But at the same time, I just remember like, I don't know, I think I might have seen some ad pop up on YouTube or something, and it was like this DJ or whatever, and he was playing, and I looked at it, and it was like his headphones weren't even hooked up to anything.
Yeah,
it
I
was
think
just
we've all seen those videos.
Everybody's seen those videos.
It's like a GIF.
It's
funny.
it's all fake. It's all smoke and mirrors, and I think I was seeing a lot of that happen in the world. And it's like in the same way that hip hop was started by 2 turntables and a microphone. It's like now everything is just automated.
Yeah,
it doesn't take any thought, it doesn't take any talent, it doesn't take any skill to create. Like it's just so easy to engage with software that allows for output. But it doesn't necessarily mean that like what's being put out there in the world, whether it's like news or products or entertainment, are of any substance.
Yeah, and it doesn't take any thought to ingest anymore. Or to form an opinion. Like the opinion is sort of formed for you.
The moment that you wake up, you're being marketed to.
Yeah.
None of us, like in our generation, can wake up without having been marketed to via the experience of waking up.
Yeah,
like,
and I think when it comes to like products and services, I am a marauding capitalist through and through. That's just who I am. Like I love the
Sure.
like, marketing and products and services. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But marketing hate is a completely different thing. And marketing
or marketing bias.
Sure. Yeah, and marketing, it's the echo chamber of social media. It's the constantly you're seeing things that reaffirm your current beliefs, which increase your reliance on your current beliefs.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of skipping. Why won't your records skip? There's not a lot of your concepts and your worldview being challenged.
I think there's like many ways in which the human experience is being muted or tamed or being squashed into a politically correct sort of bubble. And to me, that's kind of like the idea of the song, like in the lyric that says like, DJ, why won't your record skip? It's like, where's the humanity in it? Like, where's the human touch? Like, where's the human voice, not just the pre-recorded, like robot.
I think also everything is turned into that reaffirming of your current worldview. So everything, and when we go back to all of these killings and all of these mass killings and like actual hatred.
Yeah.
Like a very serious situation happens and immediately the left and the right both use that to further their own agenda.
Right.
And it's like, where's the humanity? Can we just back up and be sad for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything becomes about demonizing the other side and reaffirming your side.
Yeah. And pushing whatever special interest agenda that there is that side represents.
Sure, on both sides, everybody's guilty of it.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, man, people are dying.
Yeah.
It's like this is a real problem.
Like there are many ways in which this is one of the coolest and maybe best times to be on the planet. There are many ways in which the waste and the hatred and the death that is happening right now that's unsubstantiated, that should not be happening, that we have the ability to rise above and just don't. That's the depressing part about it. This should be the safest time to be in the world.
Yeah, and I think
it's not.
Statistically, it is. This is the weird dichotomy here, because statistically, it is the safest time to be alive. However,
you're just exposed to all of the craziness. You're getting exposed to
things, and because you're exposed to so much, I think a lot of it is just becomes, we aren't built to process this much death on a daily basis and this much tragedy on a daily basis. Think about 40 years ago.
Right.
We were just starting to see, war on TV, and that was a just mind-blowing event to everybody. I mean, we were reading about World War II in newspapers, so like you're processing this stuff. You're compartmentalizing everything to your morning newspaper. Now we're seeing these things happen online, and we don't have the space to take this stuff in and process it well. So it's just, we're not processing it at all.
Right.
And we're immediately throwing it into these compartments of, does this fit my narrative and my agenda? How do I associate with this? Because it's way too hard just to say that 40 people died. And I'm just sad about 40 people dying because it's just a headline now. It's a really weird thing that
it doesn't register with us as being real. It registers with us as being content.
Exactly.
So I think maybe like one of the best ways of summing up conceptually, maybe like what the song is about, is like, if you can like reimagine that scene in The Wizard of Oz where they actually meet the wizard for the first time and they realize it really is just a small man behind the curtain who has no idea the effect that he's having on the rest of the world that he's in control of. Like no one person can handle the weight of all of that. Like he's actually a really interesting character. He's doing some things that he knows are only in his best interest, but he has no idea how far reaching these things are. And that's sort of the role of Dorothy and of her band of friends, are to come and basically like widen his worldview and get him to understand. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a cool way of bridging that. I think that this song might have been sort of based off of the same vibe of a song that I heard called Cool Kids by
Lord?
Echo Smith.
Oh, is that Echo
there's
Smith?
a band called Echo Smith, yeah. They're like kind of recent, or they came out like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And that
They're
was
young.
like their song.
They're
yeah, super young. Really, really cool song. And I remember thinking like, oh, that song kind of sounds like The Cure, Depeche Mode, like 80s-ish.
Yeah.
And so I think I just sort of married a lot of that with maybe like fooling around on guitar until I came up with something that sounded kind of Depeche Mode-ish.
Yeah. I think originally, if you've listened to any of this track commentary, we've talked about in the first couple of songs that there would be a guitar line and we're like, we need to cover that with the synthesizer.
Yeah.
With this one, there's a synth line and we're like,
we should cover that with a guitar. But I really like those octave guitars that are sort of a staple of the 80s.
Yeah.
Because I think that they just move emotion in a certain way.
Those chimey.
Yeah. And I think those are layered with like bells or maybe like some
AC30 sounding guitars. Yeah.
Yeah. And then those the little drops that happen in the song, the Again, this is sort of Holding Out. This is like the more dark version of Holding Out, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the more gloom and doom version of that.
Sort of the same sounds.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you sit down and start talking about it. It's like, oh, there is some continuity in this record.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, those were 10 songs. Now it's like, oh, it's kind of a record.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so there was that. And then there's like the bridge part of it is actually, I think there's over 400 edits that happen just in that synthesizer part in the bridge where It's like it gets to that drop where
Yeah.
it's like 2 turntables and a microchip, and then there's just kind of like a cool little disco moment.
Yeah, I loved that because I think there wasn't a bridge at first, right? And then there was.
There wasn't. I was trying to like figure out what to
Yeah.
do right there, and I was like, the song's called Microchip. Why don't I nerd out on some microchips right now?
Yeah.
And then I think I took like a Juno 106 and I played the same part, but maybe like 6 or 7 different ways. So one of them was more clinky. It was like ting, 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 ting,
Yeah.
ting, ting. And then another one would just be like straight up pads that didn't really move at all. And then I would do a few takes where I would like move filters around so that it was just like constantly changing the sound. I took all of those tracks and then chop them all up. So what you're hearing is a ton of different takes cycling through one another.
And then when your voice, when you head into that disco part of the track, your voice sort of goes into this strange affectation. You're like, nah.
Oh yeah. So
it's really
that was
interesting. Yeah,
using a plugin called Alter Boy,
I love that plugin.
where it takes the format of your voice and changes it.
Yeah.
And so I literally just applied that to the echo of the.
So it's really cool. It's like it becomes indecipherable. Like, wait, was that your voice or was that a synthesizer?
Yeah.
What just happened? What is real? What's not
Where
real?
humanity melds with machine.
Yeah, it's sort of, for me, it is sort of a microcosm of the song. It's like, oh, here we go seamlessly from human to synthesizer disco machine.
Yeah.
And then back into human. And it's like, what is humanity? What's reality? I think it's an interesting 10-second representation of the entire experience of the song. Yeah. I love it. I think that you're also the lyric video that we're talking about, we may look back at this in 5 years and listen to this and say, oh, we never released that. Why didn't we release that? Or whatever. We haven't released it. We don't know what's going to happen. But I think when you brought that lyric video to the table, and after that was finished and this song was there and all of that together, I feel like that's probably in my eyes, your best 4 minutes of work. Is that lyric video and that song together? That's incredible. Loved it.
For everybody who hasn't seen it yet, or I'm sure we'll get it released at some point, but it kind of cycles through a bunch of different eras of advertising. Kind of like what Davey and I were talking about earlier in this song, where you just sort of get tired of being marketed to and feeling like you're just a piggy bank, like you're a statistic, you are a demographic.
Yeah.
And people are constantly trying to figure out how to
but
pull money out of you.
Spliced in between those like vintage advertisements, there are like this footage of bombs dropping on people. Like
there's a lot of like war footage. There's some death footage actually that's put in there. I think there's 3, and they're really, really quick. Like if you didn't know you were looking for this, you wouldn't see it. But the idea was like putting these really powerful moments in there to express the gravity or the weight of what all of these things are doing to people over time.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes of just being slammed with this. Here's advertising, here are explosions.
Right.
And it's really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah.
When you're watching it together. It's really hard to tell what is somebody trying to sell me a toy and what is
propaganda.
Yeah, or a bomb dropping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. And then in the bridge, it's just a toy dancing to the disco part.
Yeah.
Like, well, we can't really tell what's real, so here's a toy dancing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think I retracked the vocals for this song 2 or 3 times because every time I would track it, I wasn't sure I was like catching the vibe that I wanted to. It's a hard thing when you set a tone for a song lyrically and you're like, you can't sing this like you normally would, like a big, I don't know, bombastic 11D track where it's just like, it's like, you really do have to figure out, okay, well, how do I do justice to the vibe of the song? How do I sound sincere? It's almost like voice acting in a way. It's like, these are the lines that I need to deliver and I need them to feel sincere. I have to get to a place where I can say them sincerely and have it be believed. I think that's why I kept recutting the vocals for that, because I didn't want it to sound like I was just singing the words to a song. Like I wanted it to sound like, hey, I really do mean this. I've put some thought into what I'm saying and it's not just a reference to enemas. Blink-182.
Yes. So you mentioned when we talked about holding out, this idea of not wanting to give all of yourself to something because if it failed, you would have the egg on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you gave all you had to this song?
I gave everything I had to that song. I would say that about this album.
Yeah.
Every ounce of energy or thought or passion that I could have put into something, I put into Rad Science. And if it sucks to somebody, like, awesome. Like,
you're a big boy.
That's
You
okay.
can take it.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think you get to that point where it's like...
It's more important that I do something that I poured all of myself into than it is whether or not I succeed at it.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, like...
Do it for you.
People not liking it doesn't affect you as much, does it? Like, would you say it affects you less if someone doesn't like this?
When the older that you get, the more you realize how insecure the world around you is and how insecure you are about a lot of stuff too. But it's sort of, this is almost an instance where I think cynicism is a good thing, where it's like, so what? If I'm going to be confident in anything, I'll just be confident in me. Cause I can always give my best. And if my best isn't good enough for you, cool. How many other billions of people are there on the planet?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that now more than ever, we don't expect anybody to like anything.
Yeah, we expect everyone to be cynical, so it means that much more when people are like, I really like your song.
We truly didn't think anyone would like this record. That's not what I mean. What I mean is we expect, like, we've been doing this for so long. We've put out so many songs, like, individually and together, and it's like...
Eventually, you're just writing something that you want to be proud of.
Yeah, I think
because that's what you derive joy from.
And I think in the early days, you're always like, oh, this is it. This is going to be the one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now we've done something that I think in both of our eyes is light years ahead of anything else we've ever done.
Sure.
11tyseven has ever put out. And that feeling of, oh, this is the one, it doesn't come in the same way it used to. It's just like,
right.
Oh, this is great. Like, we've done something that we consider great. Like, these are 10 of your best songs. Like, this is your best production work. Like, this is a great 11tyseven album. We don't care if anybody likes it or not likes it. Like, I mean, thank you for liking it, but we did, we put out the work that we
did the best that we could with what we had in the time we were given. And I think that's why I'm really proud of it. And that's why I love this record. That doesn't mean that 3 years down the road from now, that we're looking back on this and we're like, oh God, that's clearly the best thing that 11ty ever did. I just want to make stuff that I'm proud of. I know that that's what you want to do too.
Yes. Yeah,
today I'm proud of it. And today I'm proud of it. And tomorrow I might not be. But just like we mentioned, like in the very first song, the whole idea is like, just keep moving. Don't stagnate. You can't afford it. We can't afford to stay still in our beliefs about things and our perception of the world and our love for each other. Just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And there is no, this is it. Like, there is no, in anything you're doing, there's not really moments where everything changes or you can't orchestrate them. Like, those things just happen those things happened because you kept doing it, not because you wanted that thing to happen.
Right.
So it's like, just do your work. Do your stuff. Do your job. Just do it because you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And that's what you're there to do. And if you don't think you're there to do the job you're doing, don't do that job. Go do something else.
Thanks so much for hanging with us through this first half of the record. This is our side A commentary on the album Rad Science that we just released via Rock Candy Recordings. You can check us out on the internet at 11tysevenisalive.com. There's links to our Instagram, to our Spotify, to our online store that we have. We'd love for you to follow us on Instagram.com/11tysevenisalive. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this, and we will see you on the side B commentary. Love y'all.
11ty Life is a production of Rock Candy